Cindy Webb, and she is going to lead us and talk about Intro to Strength Training. So we're going to find out what her class is all about, so maybe you can take it one of these days. It's all yours.
Okay, well, so Intro to Strength is a 1-credit-hour class. And usually those classes get picked up when somebody's needing to complete 12 hours in order to keep their financial aid, you know, so that's typically, used to be required. The activity classes, the Kinesiology 101 level classes used to be required. And they're not required now, they're just optional. So we've really limited the number of classes that we offer, but we still try to offer a lot of variety. So the Intro to Strength Training, I kind of pull from the fact that I've been a personal trainer for almost 30 years, okay? And you always have people that come in to get started in the fitness center, health club world that are like, I don't know how much I'm supposed to be doing, how often, what I'm even supposed to be doing. And so I try to teach the Intro to Strength Training class kind of like, this is, as far as resistance training, this is what I tell people when they need to know how much, how often, how hard, okay? So that's kind of how we start it. We have, they have to document their workouts in Intro to class so that I can tell how much participation that they're getting. And I mean, even myself, still working out, I like to document my own workouts because it's the way you know whether you made progress or not. And what I love about strength training in general is that it's not any kind of competition with anyone else. You're basically just competing with yourself. You're just trying to always make improvements from what you've done before, okay? And you want to show that you're making progress. So that's a way that they can see that they're really making progress. Either they've increased the number of times, the repetitions, the number of times that they were able to lift and lower weight, or they're increasing how much weight they're lifting, or they're adding new exercises. There's a lot of different ways you can progress your workout. So this documentation, then they can see it. And it challenges them. If I was able to do 10 reps before, then by golly, today I'm not going to do less than 10 because I'm definitely not going to backslide, right? So that's what we do. And the American College of Sports Medicine, which is the researching organization that basically does all the research. They're made up of medical professionals, physical therapists, occupational therapists, exercise physiologists, health educators, personal trainers. They're made up, and they're an organization of over 15,000 people. And they are the organization that does the research, okay? And so if you're reading any kind of fitness article, almost always they'll be quoting, ACSM recommends this, ACSM research shows this, blah, 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 right? So the ACSM recommends a minimum of 2 days a week of resistance training for healthy adults. And so you want to get in, they actually, the way it says it is 2 to 3 times a week. But our class, it's a 1-hour credit class, but it meets twice a week. So we try to target all of the major muscle groups in the body, those 2 times a week, so that they get in the minimum guidelines for healthy adults, right? And then we want to do 1 exercise for all of the major muscle groups in the body. So that means a minimum of 8 to 10 different exercises in a workout, if you're doing a full body workout, right? So already we're starting to answer the questions, how much, how often, right? So now we have to figure out how heavy do we need to be lifting, or resistance-wise, what do we need to be lifting? And ACSM recommendation is 8 to 12 repetitions to fatigue. And the definition of fatigue is the last repetition you can do with good form and technique, okay? With proper body alignment. So if you're doing some pressing movement and you're going along good, and then all of a sudden you're like, to try to get up there, that's not good form, okay? So you cannot count that repetition. So we want to set the weight heavy enough that you're challenged so that you can get between 8 and 12 repetitions before it starts looking ugly. And that's what I'll say, ooh, that one was ugly, we're not counting that one. All right? So then it just becomes kind of a guessing game. So you kind of trial and error, I guess I should say, is you get on, once you get familiar with the exercise, then you just want to kind of guesstimate about how much weight you can lift. And you set the weight, and if you cannot do at least 8 repetitions, it means the weight's too heavy, you're going to drop the weight. If you can do more than 12 repetitions, that means the weight's too light, you want to increase the weight, right? And there's always exceptions to the rule. There's some times where you may want to do more of a muscular endurance rather than a muscular strengthening. You know, you're not really wanting to build up that muscle a lot. You're just trying to make it, just keep it solid, so to speak. And so you may do more repetitions to fatigue. But that ACSM guidelines of 8 to 12 is a way of kind of overlapping. So you get strengthening and muscular endurance together in the same workout. So they're trying to come up with a minimum guidelines for people for resistance training, because the biggest thing that people say for why they don't work out is what?
Not enough time.
Not enough time. It's the biggest reason for everything, right? I don't have enough time to work out. So if I were to tell you, you know, as a personal trainer, okay, you guys need to be working out an hour and a half a day and try to hit that 5 or 6 days a week, I mean, how many people are going to be able to do that and continue to do it indefinitely? It's not going to happen, okay? So our biggest thing is we want to, and I'm saying we as in ACSM, we want people to adhere or stick to the program. So we have to come up with a minimum guideline. If, on the other hand, I say I need 20 to 25 minutes from you 2 days a week, where you're going to do your resistance training and you're going to get health benefits from that, then you can see doing that for the rest of your life, right? And I have personal trainer clients that I have had for 20 years that I'm meeting with twice a week, just keeping them on schedule. And the reason, not that they don't know what they need to do by now and how to do it correctly, but because they need accountability. They know that when they quit having me as their trainer, they don't keep doing it. Okay? So anyway, so the intro class is about making sure that you're comfortable with what you're doing. The people don't come into health clubs, and I've worked in health club atmosphere for 30 years. People don't come into health clubs because they think that they should already know what they're supposed to do. I mean, my daughter, when she was in 4th grade, when she was in 3rd grade, she could have played basketball. She was tall. She could have played basketball. But after basketball season started, I was like, well, why didn't she want to play basketball? Because she didn't know how. I go, honey, that's what they teach you. That's why you start. Because they'll teach you that. And so in 4th grade, she did start. But that's the biggest thing. And I don't think we do ourselves any favor when the advertisements for health clubs are always the slim, fit, you know, perfect bodies, right? Because then people get in their heads, I'm supposed to look like that before I even come. And I've spent enough hours working at the front desk of health clubs where people will call and want to ask questions about what the rates are and what kinds of things can they do there. And then they kind of quietly want to know, is it okay if I'm not fit yet? You know, it's like, what? That's what we want. We want people to come in that are not fit. So that's what I want about the rec center. That's what I love about the intro to strength training classes, because it's an introductory level. People still take the class that have been doing weightlifting for a long time, but I guarantee you I can always inform them of something that they didn't know, or correct something that they've been doing probably unsafely for a lot of years, and so they still learn something from it. So I was thinking I wanted to grab you guys and have you do some of the exercises out in the weight room. However, it's a little chaotic out there, and we don't have good sound. But generally speaking, we want to target all of the large muscle groups in the body. So if I was starting with the people who were doing a beginning level program in an intro to strength training class, I'd have them do some type of leg press movement. You know, if you've seen squats, right? You've seen lunges, okay? But the leg press movement on the machine is suitable for almost everyone, okay? And it's more of an introductory way to work all of the lower body. So we want to hit that. And that works the front of the thigh, the back of the thigh, and the butt. So you can't get bigger muscle group area than that, right? And so you start with that. You always want to start with multi-joint exercises and go to single joint. And then you want to go largest muscles to smaller muscles. So by multi-joint, if I'm doing this movement, I have movement at the hip joint, at the knee joint, and a little bit at the ankle joint. That's a multi-joint exercise, okay? And I would want to do that exercise, before I go to the seated leg extension machine, which the only movement's at the knee joint. That's a single joint, okay? So on that multi-joint, I'm working here, here, and here. That's biggest muscles, and I want to work my way down to the smallest muscles. So then I go to the leg extension machine, and I'm targeting just this muscle. Or I go to the leg curl machine, pulling my heel towards my bottom, and I work just the hamstring muscle. Or I go to the multi-hip machine, and I do just hip extension, pushing back, where I'm really targeting just the glutes in the butt, right? So, so you want to go multi-joint to single joint, largest muscles to smallest muscles. So right off the bat, if I only do that leg press or that squat movement, I'm already targeting all of the major muscle groups in the lower body already with one exercise, okay? Then I can break it down and do more exercises the way I just explained if I choose to or if I have the time to, right? You want to make sure that you do some kind of pulling. Your pulling strengthens in the back and it strengthens in the biceps. So you want to make sure you do a pulling exercises, and that's the one that most of the muscle guys don't like to do a lot of. They like to do a lot more of the pushing because they want to have those pecs that look big and muscular. However, they've really learned that doing pulling movements, whether you're pulling down or whether you're pulling back, really works the latissimus dorsi muscle, which is that muscle when bodybuilders are standing up on stage and they go like this, and it looks like they get a wingspan kind of a little bit out here. That's the latissimus dorsi muscle. And they know, man, if I build that up, then I'll really look like I go from really broad shoulders down to tiny waist and then down. And so they have started doing a lot more lat work. But you want to work the back with your pulling, and you want to work the front with your pushing. You want to, when we talk about core, it's important that you know core is not just abdomen. We tend to focus on abdomen a lot because we all want smaller abdomen. We all want washboard stomachs, and everything. So we think doing all this workout is going to make that happen. And it helps, but core involves the front and the back and everything in the pelvic girdle especially. So any of the movement that you're doing, hip movement that you're doing, also will help strengthen the core. Any kind of balance drill, your balance comes from core. Any type of balance drill is also strengthening the core, okay? So you want to make sure that you incorporate that, but you don't want to just do all abs and not do back. So the big thing is to remember muscle balancing. If you do pushing, do pulling, okay? Don't do one without the other. If I'm doing bicep work, working the front of my upper arm, then I want to do tricep work, working the back side of my upper arm, okay? If I'm doing the front of the shoulder, I want to get the back of the shoulder. And a neglected area a lot of times is that middle area in the shoulder, because it's usually targeted doing this movement with weight. And we don't tend to do that a lot. However, I was a farm girl, so I grew up on a farm, and I carried a lot of buckets, you guys know, 5-gallon buckets. And so when you're carrying 5-gallon buckets and you're pulling them away from your body so that you can haul them however far you need to haul them, that is that medial delt that's really burning when you're doing that exercise, because you're pulling up just a little bit with resistance. So you can kind of see how we can easily get 8 to 10 exercises, but just remember, that's the minimum guideline, and that's what I'm striving for. And the information that I test people on in Intro to Strength Training is the information that I want them to take away from the class. I don't like an activity class to be about the written exam, but I also want to know that they're listening to me and that they've absorbed some of the things that I've said. And so I test them on the midterm, and then on their final exam, I give them almost the exact same questions, because that's the handful of things that I want them to walk away from and know, because it's the stuff that in 30 years' time of me teaching this is still true, The thing that changed was ACSM guidelines has gotten smaller. The amount that we have to do has gotten smaller from what we used to say. And the reason for that is because people aren't doing the workout because they don't feel like they have the time. So what is the minimum amount that we can make them do that they will stick to and know, I can do this for the rest of my life? You know, you bump it up when you're getting ready for class reunions or weddings or whatever, but for the rest of my life, if I do this, this is going to be enough. for me to have the health benefits from it. Okay? I think that's it.
Yep, appreciate it.
You bet.
Any questions?
You guys have questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question. Do you do like individual, or do you meet with individually, or do you just?
Good question. Good question. I do meet with individuals. I kind of have a pretty booked schedule because my full-time job is fitness director here in the rec, and then I also teach classes for the kinesiology department. And the intro class is open to everybody, but I teach a couple classes that are just for health promotion and wellness majors or PE majors that get a little bit more in depth, okay? But we have personal trainers on staff that are hired, that are certified, okay? They're certified and they work basically hired and trained through me, and I'm always their go-to person if they have questions. You guys, personal training is $15 an hour here if you're students, which is, I mean, it sounds, $15 an hour may sound like a lot unless you start comparing. And when you start comparing other places, and it's a good $30 an hour, okay? And that's whether there's one or two people. So if two of you guys wanted to buddy up and do personal training, you each pay $7.50 and you get some personal training. I did want to make sure, I'm glad you asked that question, because I did want to make sure and mention that right now, if we can bump up our attendance, we offer through the rec center free to you a class on Mondays at noon and a class on Wednesday evenings at 5. I think those are the right dates. That's called group personal training. We have a different certified personal trainer that teaches Monday than teaches Wednesday, and basically whoever shows up, you get individual attention from a certified personal trainer without it costing you. The downside is that if they have several people, they're helping several people at the same time. You know, they'll get you started on something, then get them started on something, then come back and check on you. But it is a huge trend right now is small group personal training, and I'm trying to get Missouri Southern on board with it. And it's what I find is here worse than any health club I've ever worked in. It is so hard to try to accommodate everybody and their schedules. And I know it's kind of a sign of the times, but it's also a university campus because you guys are juggling jobs and families and classes and trying to figure this out. And so that's when personal training is really beneficial, is when you get to pick the time. Yeah. Yeah.
What days a week does the class meet? Is it Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday?
My class, the Intro to Strength Training class, is meeting Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9.
Tuesday, Thursday at 9.
Yeah.
And can
Is
they give you a,
that always?
Yeah, it used to be fall was different than spring, but I think we're going to keep it at 9 just to be across the board regular. Fall was always 9 and spring was 8 in the morning. And I was fine with that. What's funny is the spring I'd always have higher attendance. I'd always have higher enrollment. I'd higher enrollment and lower attendance because of 8 in the morning. And so I prefer to have people that are really going to be here. So.
And will you set a schedule up for if they wanted to do 5 days a week instead of just 2? Can you set it up based on what their goal is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I talk to them a lot.
Okay,
And it
good.
always depends on how big the class is,
Yeah.
how much individual attention I can give you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like right now, I've got a small class and all of them have weight training background already.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of just their go-to person to ask questions. And so they'll let me know, this is what I did yesterday and this is what, this is kind of the work. Yeah.
Okay.
I try to keep it intro except for when they have questions.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll tell them, I'm here, I'll answer any question you have for me,
Mm-hmm.
but when I'm lecturing and when I'm involved in the whole group, it's very basic.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, let's get on to LaTanya.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Cindy.
I'm sorry you guys couldn't get on the equipment. I was expecting everybody to have tennis shoes on, I was just gonna say, all right, come try this one and come try this one.
A few of them could have. Thank you.